about getting that potted plant because the kids had bought that plant with their own. Dad had grown the flower shop and they had bought that plant with money that they had saved up of their own. She was excited, but the 6-year-old came up to her and he had a really sad face and he looked at her and he said, Mom, we really wanted to get you this bouquet they had at the flower shop, but it was just so expensive. It was more money than we had. And she said, well, why did you want it so much? She said, well, it had this beautiful ribbon in the middle of it that said, rest in peace. And he said, I thought that would be perfect for you because you're always telling us, leave me alone, give me some peace so I can pray with you. Mothers work tirelessly. They are constantly working and it never stops. It's not something that you graduate from. As we look at graduation next week and some kids getting out of school and motherhood is not something that we ever have our mothers graduate from. We can be 40 years old and get a boo-boo and moms who want to talk to about it. And our mothers are precious to each and every one of us. And we always want to do something special for them. They're always giving back to us. There was another little boy who was in class and they were trying to teach him math and they were working on fractions. And the teacher asked the little boy, said, okay, if your mother take a chocolate pie and cut it into pieces, and there were 7 pieces, said, how much would you get? He said, 1/6. And she said, no, she's going to cut it into 7 pieces. There's 7 people in your family, she's going to cut it into 7 pieces. How much pie are you going to get? He said, I'm going to get a 1/6 of it. He said, no, that's right. You're going to get a 7. He said, man, you don't know my mom. She's going to say she really don't want these, and she's going to give more of it to us. So that's what mothers do. They also give us really good advice. And sometimes later on we make fun of the advice that we get from mothers, and I'm going to get some volunteers today. Go come here and help me out. Okay, now I want moms to answer these questions to see if your mom passed these things on to you. Now I thought about flowers, and I thought about roses and handing out roses. And then I thought, those roses are going to go home and die. But there ain't a mama here that don't want any. She might not eat it. She might pretend she don't want it, but she wants it. All right. Come here. Set this down. All right. Things that your mother told you that you probably make fun of now. All right. If you were getting ready to go somewhere, and your mother's always going to give you some advice. I don't want you to answer. Just hold your hand up so I can pick one out. She's always going to tell you, make sure you have on clean. John, are you a mother? We got a red mother in the front right here. I didn't even know. He just wants some candy. John, what did your mama tell you? Always have on clean underwear. Why? Because you might get an accident. Which second that one? See which one she knows. I never really understood that, but that's one of the things. Now this one, some of you mothers may have not heard it, but you probably heard it from your grandmother. When you're sitting in the living room on Tuesday night, you're watching television, don't sit so close to I need a hand from mother, Dale. Stay so close to the television. Why we not sit so close to the television? It's going to ruin your eyes. Now see, we get that more from our grandmothers nowadays than we do our mother. Now, the other thing that your mother would tell you, whenever you sit down at the dinner table, and you're sitting there and you're filling your plate, I have to be honest, my mother never really made me do this, but other people, you can look at me now and think, she'd always say, make sure you clean your, boy, we're not, with all these school teachers in here, you think we would be good with instructions. Go Miss Candy, she's already up there. All right, last one. When you wanted to go do something, it was on Saturday evening and your little buddy was over at the house house, you want to go to his house to play or her house to play, you go to your mother and say, can I go to so-and-so? She'd always say, go ask your Brittany. Go ask your dad. Go ask your father. See, we always make fun of those things. That would always come back when if you go ask your dad would always say, oh, here's the way to know. Well, she told me to come ask you, somebody's got to make a decision. But nobody ever wants to make a decision. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. We're also going to flip over, if you want to Proverbs chapter 6, verse 20. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching. For they are a graceful garland for your head, and pendants for your neck. If you would now flip over to Proverbs chapter 6, and verse 20. My son, keep your father's commandment, and forsake not your mother's teaching. Bind them on your heart always. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, they will lead you. And when you lie down, they will watch over you. And when you wait, they will talk with you. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for each and every person that's here today. And Father, I ask now that you open your word up to us. And Father, that you remove any words that are mine. Replace them with your words and your words alone. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, in those four things that we looked at, there's several things that we can learn. And oddly enough, the first one's actually pretty important. Whenever your mom says, make sure you got her clean underwear, you might be in an accident. She taught us several things that we might not realize. First, she taught us good hygiene and personal grooming. Well, whenever you start talking about hygiene and personal grooming, if you've got a 13-year-old boy in your house, they don't realize that what you're trying to teach them about that personal hygiene is more for the people around them than it is for me. They don't realize by, 11:30, they're around. But that's the things that you learn from your mother. When you take that a little bit further, and she taught you that life is uncertain. That no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work, no matter how well you plan, accidents happen. And they always happen whenever you're not ready for them to happen. So you've got to always be prepared for whatever life throws you, whatever life sends your way, you've got to be ready for it. Life is uncertain, it's always uncertain. Another thing that she taught you whenever she said that you had to have those clean underwear on is that you should always do what is right, even when it's not seen. See, the odds are you're not going to have an accident that's good. But the right thing to do is put on clean underwear for good hygiene, just in case that accident does come. But nobody's ever going to see it, except you. So you do the right thing, even when nobody sees it. The Statue of Liberty landed in New York Harbor, stood up in New York Harbor in 1886. From the bottom to the top, it is 151 feet high. Well, in 1886, there was no way, nobody, anywhere, was going to see the top of that thing unless it was the people that were putting it together. Well, whenever the French sculptor Arlene put that thing together, he put a heart in her hair. 32 years later, the first airplane flew over the Statue of Liberty. And when they flew over the Statue of Liberty, that heart was in the Statue of Liberty's hair. The model for the Statue of Liberty was Bartoline's mother, and she had a part in her hair. Even though nobody was ever going to see it as far as he knew, he put the part in there because that's what it took to make it right. He was dead by the time the flame flew over the top. Numbers 32:23 says, but if you will not do so, behold, you have sinned against the Lord, and be sure your sin will find you out. Your sins will find you out. It doesn't matter what you're doing, they will eventually come to light. The things that you think that are unseen, the things you think nobody's ever going to see, is eventually going to come out. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 13 says, and no creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him to whom we must give account. Whatever sin you have in your life is going to come out. Whatever sin is there, eventually people are going to find out about it. If you really want it to come out real fast, get into politics. They'll dig that stuff up real quick. In other words, your dirty drawers are going to get seen eventually. It's going to come out. The dirty laundry that we have in our lives, the sins that we have, the stuff that we think nobody knows anything about, is going to eventually come out. Because God already sees it. God already knows. God already knows what's in your heart. God already knows what's in your life. It doesn't matter how private the place is or how dark the place is that the sin takes place. God's already there. And He already sees it. There's a lot of lessons in making sure that you're practically uncertain. That you do the things that are generally going to be unseen in your life. Now, the next thing that she said was, don't sit too close to the TV because make your eyes go bad. Well, there may have been a time when TVs were dangerous to just look at. I don't know. By the time I come along, we had 3 channels. That was up from just 1. Now, we've got, I don't know how many channels we got, there's a bunch. Also, we had 3 channels that was free. Now we still want more 3 channels we got there. But we had to go out, and I remember doing this quite often. If we wanted to get more than 2 channels, we had to step out the front door and turn the antenna. And on Saturday morning, that was the ritual. If I was going to be home, we would have to turn the TV so we'd pick up channel 5 for wrestling to come on at 11 o'clock. Because I wanted to find out what Jerry Lawler was doing and the fabulous thing. Now, I don't know if anybody here remembers the fabulous thing. The first VCR, this is completely off track, this is rap. The first VCR I ever seen, my sister did it in Holland, if y'all know Holland, I'll kill it. They went and bought it. The primary purpose for this VCR was to record wrestling on Saturday morning. Just in case Holland had to work, they would have wrestling. My grandmother didn't get out of the house a whole lot. She was not healthy by the time I was old enough to remember, but I could promise you at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning, she was going to be fixed in front of that television. And to tell her that wrestling wasn't real, that just wasn't going to happen. That was real. That was, everything about that was real. But sitting too close to the television was bad. If you get too close, it's going to make your eyes bad. Luke 11:34 and 35, Jesus says, your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. When it is bad, your body is full of darkness. Therefore be careful lest the light in you be dark. Sitting too close to the television, sitting too close physically, is usually when that comes out. But in today's society, it's not so much sitting too close to it physically, we get too close to it mentally. We get too close to it psychologically. And unfortunately, we get too close to the television philosophically. See, my grandmother believed that when Handsome Jimmy turned on Jerry Lawler and beat the snot out of him, that was real. She had no idea that when Rick Rude beat him over the head with a bell, that they were actually going to leave and go to dinner together when this whole thing was over. Because what she saw on that television, she believed was the truth. It was the gospel according to the television. When Walter Cronkite come on and he said, then that's the way it is. They believed that that's the way it was. See, we're worried about getting too close to the television because it's probably putting out some kind of radiation and it's going to make your eyes go bad. But what has happened to society is we've gotten so close to what's on there that it affects everything about us. U.S. News and World Report did a survey. And in the survey, they listed the biggest factors affecting daily living. Number 1 was television. Our lives revolve around TV shows. Everybody in here, I'm sure, remembers that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That thing would give out, their goal was to give away $1 million. That's what they said. They made it where it's just about impossible to do. But they made so much money off of that show that giving away $1 million was no little problem. And America was tuned in. American Idol comes along, and for the first several seasons, things, everybody had to watch it. It affects our life. Organized religion was number 18 on that list. It barely broke the top 20. Don't get too close to the television. It will affect everything about you. It will affect what you think about society. It will affect the thoughts that you have. It will affect your relationship with your family, your friends, and ultimately your God. Your eyes might not go bad. You're not going to need glasses because you sat too close. But if you get too close, it's going to affect every other part. Now the next thing that she said was clean your plate. Why should you clean your plate? Because there's starving kids in Africa that would like to have that. Well, in that, she's teaching you several things. First and foremost is that's your first lesson on missions. Because there are starving people in Africa that like to have whatever you want. Or whatever you have left over. There is people in our own country that don't get but maybe a meal a day, some barely get that. And that's kind of scary that we've gotten to that point where we have. The other thing that she teaches you whenever she tells you to make sure that you clean your plate, especially if you fix it yourself, is don't put more on that plate than you have. Don't just fill it up. Don't just keep stacking it up on that plate if you can't eat it. And if you put it all on your plate, you better understand you're going to have to deal with everything that you put on that plate. If you like peas and you got a pile of peas about that high, you're going to have to deal with a pile of peas that high. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 says, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. You see, if you put too much on your plate, you're going to get full before you get done. If you put too much on your plate, you're going to get tired of doing long before you're done. It doesn't matter whether it's food that you fix whenever you're in a buffet line or whether it's life. Daddy always put it as, don't keep so many irons in the fire that you can't keep them all hot. Every once in a while you have to look at the irons you got in the fire and pull them out. Don't put too much on it. You will grow weary. You'll grow weary in dealing with it. And in life, you can't just dump it in the garbage or box it up and send it to kids in Africa. This doesn't work. You've got to deal with what you put on your own plate. We think of those things in terms of food, but it goes with anything. Now the last thing that she said, if you wanted to go somewhere, if you wanted to do something, she said, ask your father. Well, what that does is give authority to the dad. Now dads, when you say, I don't care, ask your mom. Okay, you're shifting the whole priority around the family. That hurts the family structure. But whenever she says, ask your father, she's teaching you something that you can carry through all of life. Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 8 it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, He will make straight your path. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. As we grow up and as we are grown, that whole idea of ask your father doesn't go away. We just need to get down on our knees and ask our Heavenly Father. See, when Mom told you that, as far as she was concerned, if Dad said it was okay, it was okay. She wasn't going to worry about it. In life, it's the same way. If you don't lean on your own self and your own understanding, whenever you have questions about whether you should do something or whether you shouldn't do something, or you need help getting out of some mess you're in, ask Dad. You are adopted into the family of God through the blood of Jesus Christ. You are a member of God's family. You're one of His adopted children. Join heirs with Christ. He wants you to talk to Him. He wants you to ask Him. And if He says it's okay, it'll be all right. It may not work out exactly like you'd like for it to, but it's going to be all right. Life is uncertain. Accidents do happen. Sometimes they're accidents that we create ourselves. So always be prepared. Do everything it takes to be prepared. Even for don't win. Don't get too close to the TV. Don't get too close to the media that pulls you away from God and your family and your relationships that are going to matter in the times that they are needed the most. Don't let it conform what you think of society. That should be in here. Finish what you start. And don't stack so much up on your plate that you can't finish it. And finally, ask your dad. Ask your dad. If he says it's okay, it'll all work out. Doesn't mean it's going to be the smoothest path. Doesn't mean it's always going to go perfectly. But it will work out according to his will. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for today, and I thank you again for each and every one that's here. And Father, I thank you for all the mothers out here, how tirelessly they work. Father, all the hours that they put in, all the things that they do that are never seen. Father, may we truly appreciate our lives. And Father, I thank you for what you do for us. And Father, we can bring anything to you. No matter how big it may seem or how small it may seem, but you're there and ready to listen. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Prayer request this morning. Pray for next Sunday's service. We'll have a few more chairs and things around there. We'll have a pretty big crowd. Bring anything you want. It's potluck. We're going to have some stuff the church will be providing, some stuff to make sure we've got plenty, but it's going to be potluck. So just put whatever you want to in the pot and hopefully we get what you need to do.